Morning everyone, it's Ian from DIY Home and Gardening. Out in the garden this morning whilst it's not raining for a change. Just into the second week of October. I've still got a bit of bulb planting to do, so I thought I'd just talk you through how I do it, or an example of how to do it. Yeah, let's get started, shall we? So for this morning, this is what I'm going to be planting. Daffodil or Narcissus, Lothario. Essentially they're all narcissi except for when they're daffodils. So the daffodil element actually refers to the size of the trumpet. So as this variety has a short trumpet, it's actually classed as a narcissi type. Anyway, technicalities aside, we're planting narcissi. So Lothario, voted for UK Daffodil of the Year. Bought these last month, so only just getting round to planting them. Let me show you the bulbs. So they're a decent size. They will produce flower next year. So I'm going to be planting those. The main thing to remember with these, obviously you want, when you're planting, check that it's a nice firm bulb. If it's soft or rotten, you're better off just discarding it, because if you plant them in groups, which looks best, then a rotten bulb will spread the disease across to the others, so you could lose all of them. Secondly, with a narcissi or daffodil bulb, look at the shape of it, and indeed with most bulbs, the rooty fibrous bit here, that's the bit that you plant downwards, and the tip would be going upwards. General rule for planting bulbs is that you plant them 2 to 3 times the size of the bulb. So in this case, you got if you got a bulb of that size, then you can see actually the total depth would be to the end of my finger that you would have to dig to. And then lastly, for when you're doing your planting schemes, get a few more out. It always looks better if you're doing them in blocks. So you plant in groups of odd numbers, so 3s or 5s, and then that way you'll get a better show. And also by planting in an odd number, when they're all in flower, it will look more natural as opposed to being set out in a straight line. So let me go and dig a hole and show you what we're doing. Right, so we've had a little look around the garden, and actually I've decided that I'm going to plant the bulbs at the back there. Obviously you want to make a bit of a judgment call depending on the size of the bulb, or the height of the flower I should say. So if you're growing something like a Narcissi Tate, which is a small grown bulb, or small grown narcissi that only really gets 4 or 5 inches in height, then you'd be looking at planting closer to the front of the borders, which indeed I have planted a load of those in previous years. But that bulb, Lothario, gets more like about 18 to 20 inches high. So actually I'm going to plant them closer to the back of the border where I currently haven't got anything, and they'll sit just behind the hellebore there, so it gives me a nice bit of early spring colour before the hellebore comes out. Right, so on to digging. I'm just literally using a hand trowel and start digging out the soil, and then I'll show you what sort of size area I've created. Okay, so that is the hole all dug out. It's probably hard to distinguish, but you can now see bulb sitting in it. It's at least 2.5 times the depth of that bulb. So all we're going to do now is set the bulbs out. Oh, random bit of soil falling. So yeah, we'll just space them a touch more. Okay, so that gives me my 7 bulbs there. As you can see, when they come up in a clump, they're from this nice big oval. You're leaving space between the bulbs. Again, you're looking at leaving 2 to 3 times the size of the bulb between each one. That will allow for the bulbs to naturalise, which means that they will reproduce and grow bigger, so they will form bulbs on the side of the bulbs, which in turn you'll have this whole mass will become one block of bulbs and one mass of colour. Now literally handfuls and infill around the bulbs to start with. So I just tend to go about half the height and then give it a slight firm down. By doing that, I know it's not always convenient if you've got a load of bulbs, but if you can do it, it's better because you can firm around, you're making sure that you've got no air pockets left, which you'll then end up with water sitting in, which can cause rotting around the bulbs. But equally, it means that you now know that all these bulbs are still facing with their tips upwards, so the bulbs will be getting off to the best start possible. So now we just backfill the rest. Well, that's it, backfilled, slightly pressed down, again wanting to make sure that you're getting the air pockets out. Found a few little sticks. I just tend to use the odd twig, whatever, as a marker, because let's face it, we all, although we think we've got good memories, we'll forget what we've actually planted, and you always remember the bulb's been planted somewhere else. So until they actually come up, we can use those little sticks as a bit of a reminder. So that's it, job done. So once again, thanks for watching the videos. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe, send me a message, or you know, leave me any feedback you like, and enjoy your garden, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.